Hi, everybody. Lee Scott here. Thank you for watching and are listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee, where we talk about life, leadership, and legacy, and want to help you unleash your capacity and level of leadership. Well, I'm so glad that you are here for the second episode of this season of Leading. And as I stated in the first episode, we're going to only do about 10 or 11 episodes this season due to the fact that there's so much going on in my life personally and so many things that are happening in my world. But I'm so excited to be back with you talking about life, leadership, and legacy. But before I get a little bit further, if you have not done it yet, go and subscribe to Leading with Lee here on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. Excuse me, y'all. It has been an interesting time in my life, as you probably can hear in my voice, because I have been busy doing a lot of things. And with this weather changing so much over the last few weeks, I've been dealing with some level of sickness that I've been overcoming over the course of time. But let me tell you, it is something that I'm learning in the process of life and how you have to keep enduring if you want to get things done. And it's so interesting that I'm talking about this because today I want to talk about this idea of unspoken, the pain of accomplishment, unspoken, the pain of accomplishment. As I've already shared, I'm somewhat under the weather as I have been dealing with sickness the last few weeks because this is such an interesting time right now for a lot of people. We have seen tons of cases of folks that have had flu and RSV, and even COVID cases have shown up on the radar for a lot of people, and people have been struggling to be healthy, stay healthy. I've been taking my vitamin C and medicine and all these different things to try to prepare myself to endure in this time. But one of the things that came to my mind as I was going to share today is this idea that I'm talking about. Because one of the things about being successful is that success does not sleep. Success does not wait for you. It is something that you have to constantly be working towards and enduring. So before I really get deep into what I have to share about today, about the unspoken realities, which is the pain of accomplishment, I want to give my definition of leadership, which I give every single time here on Leading with Lee. Anytime I share on the podcast and blog, I always give my definition of leadership. And I believe that leadership is seeing something that has not happened yet and taking people, organizations, and personal processes in that direction. Leadership is seeing something that has not happened yet and taking people, organizations, and personal processes in that direction. Now, I got 3 points today. I've not been given a lot of points, but I got 3 points today that I want to share with you related to this idea of the pain of accomplishment. And my 3 points are: success doesn't equal comfort. Number 2, being overlooked can either make or break a person. And number 3, when you reach the goal, be aware of how it's received. One of the things that I was thinking about as I was preparing for today was this first point, which is success doesn't equal comfort. And within this last week, at the end of February, people watch this at different times, but at the end of February, there was a conversation that was started happening in the NBA where a particular player by the name of Anthony Edwards, who is a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal talent in the NBA. He was asked a question about would he consider becoming the face of the NBA for the future. And Edwards, who plays for the Timberwolves, was pretty clear that he does not want that burden. And Edwards said this at a time where there was a lot of criticism and a lot of jabbering about what is happening in the NBA, that there are a lot of conversations about the nature of the game, how the game has changed and different things like that. And so there are a lot of debates happening about the perspective that a lot of the commentary world has about today's game, that literally a lot of these players that are talking about the game now either played 10 or 20 or even 30 or 40 years ago, or there were commentators who were coming of age during a time where we had some of the greatest players of all time, and we're still dealing with some great players in the NBA now, and we were dealing with the future of greatness in the NBA. But these individuals often have a lot of criticism of the game, and this question was posed in response to what Edward said, LeBron James, who is literally one of the greatest basketball players, arguably the top 2 or 3 basketball players of all time, was asked about what Edward said. And LeBron James' response was that this is he basically said that this is a heavy weight to carry. James would know, considering the fact that when he was drafted back in 2003, before he was even drafted, he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and I'll never forget it. And they were saying he was the chosen one on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and he was 17 years old at the time, 17, 18 years old. And the sports media put the whole pressure of the NBA on this one player. And for 20 some odd years, this individual has continued to play at an elite level. James, in particular, has continued to be very, very productive in his stat line. I mean, I was seeing something literally the other day about how specifically his stat line this literal season is around the same numbers for points per game and rebounds and 3-point average and all these different things. It's about the same as his 2012 year when he won the league MVP. This guy is maintaining this, and he's 12 years older than he was then. James is in his 40 years old now, and he's producing at such a high level, and yet he's in an environment where, though he is an extremely successful player, often people find criticism with James. I've talked about how some of the things that he's accomplished and done on here before, how he started a school in his hometown, and how literally even in the last 2 years, he just recently became the all-time leading scorer in the NBA history. He's now knocking on the door of scoring 50,000 points. If I'm not mistaken, he's scored over 40,000, but they're saying he's knocking on the door of scoring 45,000 or 50,000 points. I think I was saying something recently. I could be wrong, but he is so accomplished in what he has done throughout his career. He's won MVP 4 or 5 times. He's won 4 titles. He's played in the NBA Finals 10 times, which is probably one of the most in NBA history. And this guy has dealt with so much criticism and so much ridicule because of his talent. And one of the things that I wanted to drive home is that just because James has produced so much and been at the top of his game for so long doesn't mean that it's comfortable for him, and that discomfort could be external and internal. That external discomfort that he's experiencing is being criticized on talk shows every single week based on something he said or something he does, or if he has a quote unquote subpar game, which means he doesn't score as many points as we're used to him scoring. There will be a headline that says, "Is LeBron James ready to quit? Is father time caught up with LeBron James? Has he fallen off? Are the Lakers not as good because LeBron James is not at the top of his game?" Not taking into account the weight that this man has carried. This man came into the league with some of the greatest players of his time. He came into an NBA where AI and Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal and Tim Duncan and Dirk Nowitzki and all these other great players were still the faces of the league and people that were doing significant things. We had just came out of the Jordan era. And like you're dealing with a league, a player who has been in the league that long, where he has lasted through that era and had legendary battles with the Golden State Warriors for 4 straight years. Like, this man has done so much in sports, and yet he's in a moment where he's going to be criticized. And one of the things that you have to be willing to endure is understanding that to be successful, it's going to bring forth that type of criticism. To be successful, they're not going to be everybody saying, "Wow, you're amazing." No. That's not a part of the process. What you got to recognize is that people are going to find a way to criticize you. They're going to find a way to not always agree with you or support what you're doing. And sometimes the criticism may not even be coming from outside. It may be coming from on the inside. You may be dealing with some level of imposter syndrome, some feeling that at any point the successes that you want to have may be taken away from you. You may be feeling or sensing in your life that, well, I may not be able to reach my goals because of this factor, or I didn't come from money, or I did come from money. And people think that I got here because I came from a family that always had the resources. So they didn't think I earned it. Or I came from an environment where I had no resources. And so I had to work everything that I had and work super hard. And all the people that I've done this for and all these different things, they say that you think you're better than us. And then you deal with all these different mindsets or things that's happening in your mind when you're thinking about success in your life. And you have to overcome that idea, because the reality is there's going to be some discomfort. It's growing pains. It's a part of the process. And LeBron James has become, as the old expression, comfortable with being uncomfortable. He has cemented his legacy by recognizing, hey, these people will continuously never judge me by what I accomplish. They always hold me up against people that were of a different time and different era. And we respect those individuals, we respect what they've accomplished, but I'm not them, and they are not me. Now, I understand this because I'm experiencing some interesting realities right now. As I shared in the first episode, I'm running for office right now, and so there's some things I'm navigating. I'm navigating understanding that if I am successful at reaching my goal, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be comfortable. It's the work begins when you accomplish the goal. It doesn't start when after you do. It doesn't start because you accomplish the goal. The work begins. And as I'm meeting people and knocking doors and engaging voters, I'm recognizing that it's going to be very uncomfortable. Am I willing to reconcile that reality that even if we do something to make the community better, even if we do things that are trying to improve or engage in voters, or there's going to be somebody who says he ain't doing nothing. He's not making a difference. He's not doing. And even when people have asked me, what is my vision? And I've shared these things, and I've been very clear about those things when I'm on the campaign trail and talking to voters. But there will be still individuals who say, well, he said he was going to. Well, when we asked him this, he said, and all these different things. And what I have to learn right now is that if I am successful at reaching and working towards the same, am I going to be okay with people saying that I didn't do what I said I was going to do, or the quote unquote success of winning? Because as I said, there is pain to accomplishment. There's a part of the process that we don't talk about. We don't talk about how hard LeBron James works. We don't even talk about how this man spends hundreds of thousands, probably at least $1 million a year on his body. The reason why he's been in the league 22 years is because he spends time and invests money into his body, into his health, ensuring that he is able to be successful in this league. Still, a guy his age should not be averaging the points that he's averaging, but it's because of his investment. Even some of the greats weren't averaging this when they got later in their careers. They weren't. Yet he's doing this at his age. So we have to keep some perspective about success. We have to keep some perspective about what it takes to overcome a lot of the difficulties of that. That's a real thing for people. That's a real thing for you and I to consider when we think about what's happening in our lives. We gotta consider, hey, what is it going to take? What is it going to take for me to be successful? What is it going to take for me to stick to the goal? What is it going to take for me to not give up? Because it's going to take some discomfort. It's going to take you being unsettled. Because if it's about you being comfortable, you probably need to go do something else. Don't try to be successful if you want to be comfortable. Success is not for comfort. Success requires discomfort. It just does. You want to get in the best shape of your life? It's going to require some discomfort. You want to be more financially sound? It's going to require some discomfort. You want to be more successful in the goals that you have, whether it be your mental health or emotional or psychological, whatever goals you have, it's going to require some discomfort. I mean, that's what it is. It's just a part of the process. And you got to be willing to be okay with it. The second point, being overlooked can make or break a person. We're in a moment where the subject of diversity, equity, inclusion are at the top of minds. It seems like week after week, we are hearing companies and organizations and government entities making decisions, whether positive or negative, about their position on this idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is daunting to see how many people have either lost their jobs or left a job or have felt uncomfortable in their workplace because they were told that the only reason why they got their job was because they were not the archetype of an individual that we have in this country, which is a white male. And so because they did not fit into the qualification of a straight white male, they obviously did not earn it. And this is a difficult pill to swallow for people, because when we talk about the subject of diversity, equity, inclusion, that includes people that are impaired, whether it's really not to stop those people. People that have disabilities, folks who have served our nation in the military, people who have different sexual orientations, folks who are of different races and different gender. It gives all of these people an opportunity to not deal with the fact that sometimes people hire people based on familiarity. The whole purpose of this idea is to try to bring equity in hiring practices. Because what often happens is people accomplish a whole lot, and for whatever reason, we're just going to say for whatever reason, they're not given the opportunity to move forward because for some reason they don't meet the requirements or meet the ideal standard of what someone thinks should be in this position. They don't meet what people have seen before, so therefore they get overlooked or picked over because they don't meet a particular ideal that someone has. And this is a real thing because there are people right now who are struggling with the impact of being overlooked or being fired because They were a quote unquote DEI hire. Losing their jobs and the things that they've earned because of someone's belief about groups of people and belief about who are the only ones that should be successful. I've worked for organizations in my life and I've seen this happen where an individual has only been in an organization for a few years, yet it seems like they're going out of their way to elevate this individual when there are people who have earned it that never get a nod. And I'm not, and let me be very clear when I say this, I'm not talking about timing, opportunity. I'm not talking about all those kind of things. Because there are some situations that literally you were the right person at the right time, and it didn't matter your seniority. It didn't matter all those things. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is an intentional bypassing of an individual who, for whatever reason, they can never explain to you why they're doing it. But for whatever reason, they're choosing not to elevate this individual. It could be personal. It could be a variety of things, but they're choosing not to elevate an individual. And this happens a lot. This happens quite often to people. And it's a psychologically breaking thing. It can either make or break somebody. Because when you've done so much for some organization or business or for an entity that you're part of, and they do not treat you with the same value that you have brought to them, it can do something to you. It can break you. It can literally cause you to feel betrayed. I was on social media and this last week, and I actually heard a very prominent psychologist talk about this issue. A lot of these people have lost their jobs, and she even stated that it can feel like betrayal. You missed your child's baseball games, and you miss birthdays, and you miss all these events and vacations with your family because you committed to your job. And then in return, the job does a disservice to you. And there might be a person that's listening to watch this right now where this is happening to you, or has happened to you, or will happen to you. And you're asking yourself the question, how do I endure this? Because here's the reality. The psychological impacts of betrayal are things like depression. Depression is it's a rough thing. Anxiety is something that happens with people. You start having panic attacks. I've had the experiences, sadly, of experiencing what a panic attack can be like. Because I was anxious about something and something happened and it triggered all these things. I had never had it in my life, but had the experience of feeling like I was out of control. Betrayal causes emotional dysregulation, meaning you can be angry in 1 second and crying in the next because of the stuff that you are experiencing because of betrayal. You begin to struggle with low self-esteem. You start to have self-esteem issues because of the fact that you feel betrayed. You start having trust issues because you feel betrayed. Here's why I'm talking about this, because sometimes in your life, when you do things that are great, no matter how you slice it, there'll be people that will find a way to undercut you and try to make you small. They will try everything in their power to not see you as someone that's equal or even on the same level as them. It's nothing you did. It's nothing you said. It's nothing that you brought to their attention. It's none of that. What it is that people are trying to belittle what you have accomplished. There are people that are going to say that what you've done is not enough. There are people that are going to say, well, you've done too much. So why are you doing this? People are going to try to find any excuse to undercut or undermine what you have accomplished. They walk right past you because they have a favorite or somebody they like or someone whatever. And it can feel like betrayal. It does. That's not a thing that we should minimize. It does. It feels like betrayal. And so what you have to do is get to a place where you recognize, hey, I've got to either allow this situation to make me a stronger person or succumb to the situation. I hope that you would consider actually using it as a lesson to propel you forward. Did an episode about a year or so ago where I talked about losing a job that I had given time to, worked really hard. Some things didn't happen the way that I wanted it to happen, and some things I wanted to really work out well. I was hoping that it would work out better. And I talked about my experience. And what I learned was something how to make you better. It needs to make you better. It needs to propel you forward. It needs to cause you to say, you know what? I'm going to go into a new direction. I'm going to go forward because this thing didn't break me. This thing is going to cause me to fall forward. And my hope is that if you are someone who are listening to me right now, that you recognize that you have an opportunity right now. You have an opportunity right now to move forward in spite of the fact that you were mistreated and you were done wrong. And here's the thing. One thing we do not talk about enough is how we have to grieve losses. We got to grieve losses. Many of us have not grieved the loss of a family member. Many of us have not grieved the loss of a job or a connection or a friendship or relationship. And all of us have experienced some of these things at some point in our lives. I know I have. And you got to give yourself the space to process what you are feeling. Give yourself the space to process all the things that you are experiencing right now. Because here's the thing. If you don't give yourself the space to process it, what tends to happen is that it gets in your heart, it gets in your bloodstream, it gets in your subconscious mind. This is where we see hypertension, heart disease, all these things. It's like poison to your soul. It starts to make you bitter. And I'm really trying to work very hard to not allow bitterness to become a thing for me. I hope that you are trying to too, because you cannot allow bitterness to become a thing. Bitterness is dangerous. It can be diabolical to your whole life. It can cause you to never move forward in the ways that you need to move forward. because everything in your life becomes an anathema. It becomes something that's trying to stop you. Even people that come into your life to try to help you, you will see them as the enemy because of bitterness. And successful people can't allow themselves. People that are trying to accomplish something. This is the thing that they're dealing with. They're trying not to be bitter. They can't explode and say, hey, bro, I'm mad because these people say these things about me. Because then if they tell you that's how they feel, you would say that you would say they're being weak. You and I would say, why are they complaining? They're the one that's successful. They're the one that went into this profession. They're the one that went into this thing. And we say all these things, not realizing the pressure of what that feels like. And I'm saying this as someone who recognizes, hey, this is just perspective. I'm telling you, I'm recognizing that if the people in my community give me the opportunity to represent them, this will be my crucible to carry. I can be mad because they feel these ways, but I can't allow myself to become bitter and not do what is necessary to work on their behalf. This is what it is. It comes with the territory. The difficulties that come with this territory of working a job, being a parent, being a partner, all these different things. There are things that come with that. And you and I have to be okay with the realities of dealing with that. And so I hope that you will keep that in mind as we go forward. I'm going to take a break right here, and we'll be right back after this message. Want to promote your business, products, or services? Email me at scottconsultations@gmail.com. I would love to push forward the banner of what you're trying to accomplish, whether it is a product, whether it's your services or your business. I would love to work with you and be an advocate for what you're doing in your respective spaces. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you. And we are back. Thank you so much for watching and or listening to this episode right now. I hope that you've been inspired by my first 2 points, but I only got one more point, and I hope that it will motivate you and encourage you to recognize that, hey, there are some unspoken parts of being successful, but they're just a part of the process. And my last point today is, when you reach the goal, be aware of how it's received. And what I mean by that is recognize that there will be people who have opinions about the fact that you are successful. As many of you know, we are in Women's History Month, and generally every year here on Leading with Lee, I do episodes where I talk particularly about women and talk specifically to women during Women's History Month, because I recognize that there are some realities that women have brought to the table and things that they are doing to accomplish goals in our communities and in our society as a whole. And oftentimes there is some inherent bias towards women and their ability to lead. And I would even acknowledge right now, as I'm running for city council, there are tons of men running for office, right? A lot of men. Okay. There are also women running for office right now. But it's very often that female candidates receive or deal with a lack of resources and support in local elections here in Jackson. We have yet to have a woman lead our city or a woman lead our state. And we have not really seen a lot of support for women taking the helm of local government or even government writ large. And there have been some women who have been successful. I'm not saying that I'm not acknowledging the success of women in business or even here in our city or in our state. But that's a part of what we have to keep in mind when we talk about reaching the goal. Because one day, if our city, when, I'm not saying if, when they win, our city has a woman leads it, or our state has a woman leads it, there's going to be a positive and a negative response. It's a part of the game. There are going to be people who make statements about a woman leading our city and about a woman leading our state. Oh, and even a woman leading our nation that are going to be rooted in misogyny and sexism or even just a lack of imagination to see a woman in that seat, to see a woman accomplish this goal, to see a woman do a particular thing because of an inherent belief about reaching the goal. And what we have to reckon with is you have to think about, okay, if I accomplish this goal, how will people receive it? I'm not saying don't go after things based on what people think. What I'm saying is you have to bear in mind that people will see it a variety of ways. The people will see you getting to your goal, no matter if you're a man or a woman. They are going to see you accomplishing your goal a variety of ways. They're going to have opinions. They're going to have perspectives. They're going to have thoughts about you accomplishing the thing that you went after. You must not be overwhelmed by how it's received. Because one of the most difficult things that we deal with in this life is wanting people to understand why we went after what we went after. I heard somebody talk about successful people have to live with the fact that they're misunderstood. I struggle with that idea. Because one of the grave just things that I deal with personally is being misunderstood. It drives me insane for somebody to tell me, hey, you feel this way. And then they didn't actually ask me the question, how do you feel about this? I would feel better if you just asked me, hey, Lee, how do you feel about this? Not, no, obviously you feel this way because of. So we're making statements now? We're not asking questions? And that's important. But it's important acknowledgement that I have. I can at least acknowledge that the goals that I want to accomplish, everybody will not receive it the same way. There are going to be people that are be excited if you accomplish your goals. There are going to be people that are going to be against it for whatever reason. But how you respond, how you ingest that information, how you deal with that reality is on you. It's up to you to determine whether or not you're going to respond in the right way when it comes down to that. Because that's what's important. That's what's important. This was important. You have to look at it differently. And so I hope today that, like, as you're thinking about the things that goes through your mind as you're going after your goals, I hope that you would see that it's worth it. I know it's real hard to really come to terms with that, but ultimately it's worth it. Is it lonely? Yes. Will sometimes be moments where you're like, why did I put this pressure on myself? Yes, you absolutely will. But what you gotta bear in mind is it worth it? Do you care about the people that you say that you want to impact? Do you care about the communities or the folks that you talk about all the time you want to do something for? Movement is going to cross criticism. It's just a part of the game, man. The fact that you're doing something is going to bring forth criticism. Even if it's not external, you're going to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I bringing this into my life? Why am I bringing the pressure on myself? Like that's a real thing. All of that is a byproduct of what I'm talking about. The pain of accomplishment. But I think you'll be fine. Go after your goals, go after your dreams, and never give up. Much love, and I'll see you next time here, next month, here on Leading with Lee. Thank you for watching and listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. I'm so grateful that you have listened and engaged with this content. And if you want to learn more information about me, visit www.leadingwithlee.co to know about my services and things that I am doing. I hope that you will also follow me on social media at Leading with Lee, and follow me on my personal social media at Lee A. Scott II or Lee A. Scott II on all social media platforms. I'm so grateful that you've listened. I'm so grateful that you engaged this content. Much love, and let's get started.